What's up, Raider Nation? Today we're diving into our final mock draft before the real deal. Can you believe it? We're less than a week away from the 2025 NFL Draft. In just 8 days, the future of the Las Vegas Raiders could look completely different. New faces, new dreams, new direction. This time next week, we could be welcoming 7 or 8 fresh rookies into the silver and black. The excitement? It's real. And who knows? We might even draft a quarterback, which could change the whole course of our franchise. Now, I've been thinking hard about this draft. If you know me, you know I believe in building through the trenches. That's where real football is won, on the offensive and defensive lines. People say it all the time, but there's an art to doing it right. You don't want to reach for a guard in the top 10. That's not smart drafting. Centers, same thing. Save those picks for later rounds. But offensive tackles, that's where you invest those first-round picks. That's where the stars are made. Just look at what John Spytek did in Tampa Bay. Sure, he wasn't the general manager, but he helped build that offensive line through the draft. Guys like Tristan Wirfs, Luke Godica, and Cody Mauch, those are high picks that turned into rock-solid starters. That kind of strategy works, and it could work for the Raiders too, so let's get into it. Now, I don't see the Raiders trading up. I think we're staying put with that 6th overall pick. And I've been thinking, what if Ashton Genie is still on the board? He's a game changer at running back, the best in this draft class. If he's there, it's hard to pass him up. Imagine him in the backfield, bringing new life to our offense from day one. But here's the thing. I still believe we have to fix that offensive line. I'm not completely sold on DJ Glaze yet. Maybe he proves himself. Maybe he becomes that franchise left tackle. But until then, we need to be smart. The Raiders are at a crossroads, and every pick matters. Now let's get into the Raiders' first pick, number 6 overall. I don't think we're trading up. I think we're sticking and picking. I've thought long and hard about this one. And yes, I know some fans are banging the table for a running back, specifically Ashton Genie. If he's sitting there at number 6, I get the appeal. He's the best back in this class, and he's a true game changer. Plug him in, and the offense instantly improves. But I'm going in a different direction, because I still think the offensive line needs serious work. I'm not sold on DJ Glaze. You guys already know how I feel. And history tells us that if a tackle doesn't show real promise in year 1, the odds aren't great that he turns into the guy. Look at Thayer Munford, solid but not special. The 49ers had a similar situation with their right tackle. Name slipping my mind. And in the Super Bowl, the Chiefs lined up Chris Jones over him, and it cost them. Then there's Jackson Powers Johnson. He's the opposite. You knew from day one he was a star. He's tossing guys like Vita Vea like it's nothing. That's rare. That's elite. And that's what the Raiders need more of. Let's be honest. Guys like Munford won't suddenly become elite movers. They won't get faster or quicker. They might improve a little, sure, but they'll never move like a Colton Miller or a Penei Sewell. That's just facts. The pick, Armen M'Bau, OT, Missouri. If I'm the Raiders, I'm taking Armen M'Bau out of Missouri at pick 6. This guy is the real deal, my top offensive lineman in the class. He immediately shores up the right tackle spot. And what's even better, drafting M'Bau lets you kick DJ Glaze inside, where he'll be much more effective. He's got the strength, length, and physicality to thrive as an interior lineman. That gives us a lineup of LT Colton Miller, LG DJ Glaze, C Jackson Powers Johnson, RG Alex Kappa, or Dylan Parham. RT Armen M'Bau. 4 of those 5 spots locked down. That's how you build long-term success. And here's the thing. If the Raiders win 9 or 10 games this year, which is very possible with Geno Smith at the helm, we're not going to be picking in the top 10 next year. We'll be sitting at pick 21 or 22, and elite tackles will be off the board. You can't wait around if you need a cornerstone player. Also, let's keep it real. Tackles drafted in the 2nd or 3rd round, they rarely work out long-term. Go premium now. Lock in M'Bau. Solve your biggest problem. Round 2 targets pick 37. Now let's talk 2nd round. At pick 37, this is where things get interesting. Here's where you can target. Running backs, interior linemen, wide receivers. 1WR. I really like here is Jaden Higgins, a true X receiver who could fit perfectly in our offense. Another name is Kyle Williams. I think he goes top 15, even though PFF is sleeping on him. And it's not just PFF. A lot of people are wrong on Kyle Williams. If he somehow slips, snatch him. That said, I don't think wide receiver is an emergency need. We've got Jacoby Myers, Trey Tucker, Brock Bowers, Michael Mayer. That's a solid group. If we really need to, we can always grab a wide receiver in free agency. The Raiders already have some decent wide receivers. And sure, if they really want another one, they've got options. They could sign a free agent, but if they're serious about adding a true difference maker, they should use their sixth overall pick on a wide receiver. Otherwise, it's probably better to wait, unless they're looking for a very specific role, like a deep threat. Someone like Trey Tucker, who could be drafted in the third or fourth round, fits that bill. He won't be your go-to guy, but he'll stretch the field and draw attention. Or maybe you want a reliable possession guy. That's where Jacoby Myers comes in. Great hands, dependable. But let's shift the focus, because there's one position the Raiders have to target this year, running back. If there weren't 15 starting caliber backs in this draft, Gene might even be a top 10 pick. But because of the depth, the Raiders can afford to wait until round 2. And that's where Trayvon Henderson comes in. This guy played under Chip Kelly, so there's already a connection. Some scouts even believe he could sneak into the first round. But if he's available at pick number 37, that's a slam dunk for the Raiders. He's explosive, smart, and built for the NFL. After locking in a starting running back, the Raiders can look ahead to pick number 68, where they have flexibility. And one area they must address: safety. At first, it didn't seem like a huge need. Coaches like Patrick Graham and Pete Carroll usually find guys they can work with. But when the Raiders let Marcus Epps and Trayvon Moehrig walk and signed Jeremy Chin and Isaiah Pola-Mao, both of whom play similar roles, it became clear they still need a true deep safety. Problem is, neither Chin nor Pola-Mao can cover deep. Especially Pola-Mao, he's stiff in space and struggles with quickness. So the Raiders should grab a safety in the third or fourth round. Someone like Andrew Mukuba from Texas. Mukuba is a playmaker. Last season alone, he had 6 interceptions and 9 pass breakups. He's got range, fluid hips, and excellent instincts. I'd argue he was Texas's best defender. And here's a fun twist. I only checked out Makuba's tape because he follows me on Twitter. But wow, I didn't expect to see what I saw. The kid's a stud. So now let's recap. The Raiders have their starting right tackle, a dynamic running back, and a legit safety coming out of this draft. They're filling holes with real talent, and they're just getting started. So now the Raiders have 3 key starters from this draft: a right tackle, a running back, and a safety. And we're just entering the 4th round. Now, I've heard this before. Someone once said to me, "Why are you still watching the draft in the 3rd or 4th round? Those guys are just special teams players." Let me tell you, that's just not true. Some of the league's best starters, even all-pros, have been found in the 3rd and 4th rounds. These rounds are where smart teams find hidden gems. And this year's draft, it's loaded. There are still starting caliber players available at picks 108, 143, even 180 in the 5th round. So, what could the Raiders do now? They could go after a guard. I'm not taking one here, but there's a guy I love, Dylan Fairchild. Built differently, explosive, strong. He could absolutely be a day 1 starter. If you haven't seen his tape yet, I highly recommend it. Or maybe you grab a tackle who can kick inside and play guard. Jalen Rivers comes to mind. He was a beast at the Senior Bowl, probably the best offensive lineman there. I think he could start right away as a guard. What about doubling down on running backs? I'd say wait. This class has about 15 guys who can start in the NFL. No need to rush. Quarterback could be an option. Cornerback, maybe not yet. Yeah, the Raiders have questions at corner, but you've also invested draft capital there recently. 2 4th-round corners last year, another in the 7th. And don't forget Jacorian Bennett, a 4th-round pick from the year before. Let's give those guys time to develop. Now here's a position worth targeting, the defensive line. Edge and interior both have solid depth in this class, especially into the 4th round. One player I'm really high on, though I might be the only one, is Cameron Jackson, an interior defensive lineman out of Florida. He's an absolute mountain, 6 feet 6 inches, 342 pounds. a classic nose tackle with serious power. He's not the guy who'll get you sacks, but he'll hold the line and eat up blockers. Florida has a great D-line coach who reminds me of Rob Leonard. He knows how to turn big, raw prospects into real playmakers. So here we are, heading into the fourth round of the draft. The Raiders already have 3 potential starters. But let me make one thing clear, this part of the draft still matters. I once had a guy tell me, why even watch the draft after round 3? These are just special teams players. But that's just not true. There are legit starters, and even all-pro talent, still sitting on the board in the 3rd and 4th rounds, especially this year. This draft class is deep. Deep enough that the Raiders could still land starting caliber players at picks 108, 143, even pick 180 in the 5th round. So far, the Raiders grabbed a starting tackle, a starting running back, and a starting safety. At this point, maybe you consider grabbing a guard. I'm not making that move here, but I have to say, Dylan Fairchild, built different. If you haven't watched his tape yet, you're missing out. Another name to watch, Jalen Rivers. He could play tackle or shift inside to guard. He was arguably the best offensive lineman at the Senior Bowl. This guy is a dog. Day 1 starter material. Could the Raiders double down on running backs? Sure, but they can wait. It's a deep running back class. Quarterback? That's an option. So is cornerback. But here's the thing. Raiders already have young corners they're developing. They took 2 in the 4th and 7th rounds last year, plus Jacorian Bennett the year before. Let them grow. No need to rush another pick at that position. Defensive line, though, that's where it gets interesting. There's real value on the edge and interior. One guy I love, probably more than most, is Cameron Jackson out of Florida. This dude is a beast. Cameron Jackson could be a great fit for the Raiders. Why? Because guys like Adam Butler and Christian Wilkins are more pass rush focused, 3 technique guys. What the Raiders need is a run stuffer, and Jackson fits that mold. He's a true nose tackle at 6 feet 6 inches, 342 pounds, and he's not just a space eater. The man has a nasty swim move and surprising upside as a pass rusher. If the Raiders take him here, I wouldn't be shocked if he ends up being a top 2-round talent. Now, we already drafted a right tackle. But what about Colton Miller? What if the front office doesn't think he's worth the $22 to $23 million extension? If they plan to move on, taking a guy like Armen M'Bau earlier suddenly becomes that much more important. And there are more names later. Guys like Chase Lunt from UConn, Logan Brown, and Sopoaga out of Washington State. Sopoaga had some strong reps against top-tier pass rushers at the East-West Shrine Bowl. That said, I probably wouldn't draft a tackle here. At pick 143, you can still land a real difference maker. Let's talk wide receivers. Ty Felton, expected to go higher, still on the board. Nick Nash, led the league in catches. Jimmy Horn Jr., blazing speed. Leonte Wester had 107 catches in 2023 before transferring to Colorado. Will Shepard, a 6'3", 205-pound Truex receiver with serious upside. The Raiders might want to wait on wideouts. After all, they already have Brock Bowers. Quarterback is another position to watch. Quinn Ewers is a name to remember. Maybe not here, but later, could happen. Some think the Raiders might move Jackson Powers Johnson to guard and draft a center. I'm not on board with that. Keep him where he's best. And edge defenders? Early round guys are freak athletes. But later on, you start seeing guys like Max Crosby or Malcolm Kuntze, guys who don't test like freaks but win with technique. Those are the kind of pass rushers that can still wreck games. Now let's talk about edge defenders and the type of guys the Raiders could look at. The truth is, teams don't always value run defenders unless they have a certain body structure or elite physical traits. Look at Austin Booker last year. Went in the 5th round to the Bears, didn't play much, but dominated in the preseason. He ended up with 4 sacks and limited snaps during the regular season. He's got that Max Crosby vibe, but could be more in line with Malcolm Kuntz's career trajectory, where he breaks out in year 3. Speaking of Tyler Barron, he's another intriguing edge rusher coming out of Miami. He's got elite movement and a solid pass rush game. The one concern? There's some character questions around him. Apparently, he doesn't love football as much as he should. But if Rob Leonard can get a hold of him, he might end up being a great developmental guy, maybe even the next Malcolm Kuntze. Now, think about Malcolm Kuntze for a second. He didn't play at all last season. but the Raiders still paid him more than they were willing to pay Josh Jacobs, who had over 1,700 yards the season before. Think about that. Kumas, coming off an ACL injury and not even playing, got $13 million per year. This is the kind of potential upside the Raiders are betting on with these developmental picks. But don't expect Kunsey to be back after this season. Even if he only manages 7 or 8 sacks, he'll still command a huge contract. Around $20 to $25 million. That's how much potential can pay off. Looking ahead to pick 180, there are still plenty of players who could be solid steals. This is where the Raiders can focus on developing talent. Linebackers and corners are key. These are system positions where coaches like Pete Carroll have turned fifth-round linebackers into Hall of Famers. I think Patrick Graham could find an undrafted gem, maybe like Amari Gaynor, who could turn into something special. One linebacker I really like is David Benda out of Texas. Yes, the G is silent, but this guy can hit. He's a strong downhill linebacker, 6 feet 2 inches, 235 pounds, and a beast against the run. He had an impressive 84.5 run defense grade and shows solid physical tools. Coverage? Hey, not amazing, but still solid for a linebacker. He's the kind of guy the Raiders need, tough, physical, and capable of stepping in and making plays. In this system, the Raiders need those downhill types. Guys who can take on the run and make things happen. I think Benda could be a solid developmental piece. Let's dive into some of the key picks coming up. David Benda from Texas is definitely a guy with a lot of potential. Smart player, great upside. This is the type of pick that could pay off in the long run. And remember, where these guys are ranked doesn't really matter. At this stage, it's all guesswork. We don't know exactly where quarterbacks and receivers will land yet, so take it with a grain of salt. Now, when it comes to quarterbacks, I'd say the Raiders could look in the third or fourth round if they want to grab one. But honestly, I think they should focus on adding another running back to the roster. Last year, John Spy picked up a quick, shifty running back from Oregon, undersized but explosive. This year, Oregon has another similar back, but I'm actually leaning toward Jaquavius Marks. Raheem Sanders also has some serious potential. The Raiders need more depth here. Right now, they don't have many running backs on the roster. Sure, they've got Raheem Mostert, but there's a good chance we'll see some guys getting released. Dylan Lacey, for example, hasn't really shown much. I wouldn't be shocked if he gets cut. There's a shift happening with this new regime, and they won't hesitate to move on from guys that don't fit their mold. Guys who don't have the right work ethic or who don't meet the new coaching standards. It's similar to when Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler came in. They cut ties with players quickly if things weren't working out. Looking ahead to the final picks, there are definitely positions the Raiders should still address. Guard is one of them. Alex Kappa is there, but he's got a $5 million price tag, and Dylan Parham is in his final year. It wouldn't surprise me if they move on from him, too. If I'm picking a guard, Jackson Slater from Jackson State is a name I really like. He's physical and strong. Perfect fit for the Raiders' offensive line, which needs more depth and development. I'm also keeping an eye on Joshua Gray from Oregon State. His game fits the wide zone scheme well, but we might not run as much of that. Either way, it's about finding the right talent to develop for the future. In these last picks, the Raiders are looking for impact players who can step up right away and developmental guys for the long term. The goal is to build for the future. So while you're thinking about this draft, keep in mind that the team needs to be planning for the next few years. That rookie linebacker could be a free agent in 3 years, and Trayvon Merrick and Nate Hobbs might be on their way out too. Start thinking about replacing them early. Maybe even a wide receiver could be in the mix. This class has a ton of talent. Not every player in this draft will be an instant superstar, but many will make an impact. Not like Justin Jefferson level, but they could rack up 450 yards and play around 300 snaps a season. And that's still a huge contribution. It's easy to overlook these role players, but their impact is just as crucial. Think about it. Having a solid number. 2 wide receiver, guard, or defensive tackle is just as important as having a Max Crosby caliber player. For every Max Crosby, there's someone like Adam Butler stepping up when he's double-teamed. Those role players matter. Look at the Eagles, for example. In the championship game, their starting center, Cam Jurgens, was hurt. Landon Dickerson, their left guard, stepped in at center, and Tyler Steen, their backup, filled in at guard. These moves might not get the headlines, but they were crucial in keeping things on track. It's the same story with the Raiders. They need those players who can step in and win games when called upon. Now, on to the final pick. Special teams are interesting, but I don't think the Raiders need more depth there. I feel like wide receiver makes more sense. Eaton Chisholm from Hula is someone who's gotten a lot of attention. People rave about him on Twitter. And then there's Jimmy Horn Jr. I think he's better than people give him credit for. But I'm going with Leonte Wester. He dominated in 2023, and when he came to Colorado, everyone thought he'd be a star, maybe even on the same level as Travis Hunter. But unfortunately, it didn't work out for him in Colorado's strange offense. Still, he's not a bad player at all, and I believe he can make it in the NFL. For the Raiders, the worst case scenario here is that Wester develops over the next few years and starts to contribute in year 3 or 4. That's a win for a seventh round pick. Looking back at the overall draft, I feel good about these picks. Armen M'Bau and Trayvon Henderson will be great additions. Andrew Makuba is a solid safety. And if you haven't seen Cameron Jackson's tape, you're missing out. He's a beast. I might even do a breakdown on the Football Scout channel because I think he's one to watch. As for Jackson, he's got the size, 6 feet 6 inches, 300 to 45 pounds. He's a run-first defender, but his pass rush potential is there thanks to great coaching. He's also coached by someone with a track record of developing top-tier defensive tackles like Rob Leonard. If you didn't know, Caleb Banks, another Florida defensive tackle, would have been a top 5 pick this year had he declared for the draft. Tyler Barron has potential too, and hopefully Max Crosby can help him develop. With this class, the Raiders get a linebacker, a second running back in Marks, a starting guard in Jackson Slater, who could eventually replace Alex Kappa or Dylan Parm, and of course, Leonte Wester with high upside. I'm excited to see how this all plays out. Let me know what you think. The draft is just around the corner. I'll be doing a breakdown soon on the Raiders' top options for the 6th overall pick, including a deep dive on 12 players and their fit within the team's scheme. Thanks for watching, and make sure to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more.